right, let's talk materials for our Amigurumi Possum affirmation critter this week. So first and foremost, we will need our 3.5. That is, as you know, my absolute favorite. We will need some yarn. So let me get my yarn life together here. We're gonna need some white. That's gonna be for like the face of our possum. If you can see him kind of in the background, that's gonna be the face of our possum. We're gonna need some pink. The pink is gonna be for the tip of the nose, if you can see it right there. We will need some gray, and that's for the body, and some black, and this is gonna be for our ears. Let me just show you what our guy's looking like. So that's, you know, the colors that you'll need. You will need, let's see, a stitch marker. You will need a yarn needle. You will need some scissors. You will need some polyfill, obviously more than that, that's just an example. You will need a needle and thread to attach our message to our possum. And you will need some quilting pins. Let me find mine. Quilting pins, and this is, I always say it, it's definitely optional, but it's gonna help us to make sure that we're attaching our the body parts to our possum in the correct place. So if you don't have them, it's not really a big deal, but it is something that is gonna help make your life like 10 times easier. So, all right, and then the very, very last thing we need is our plastic safety eyes. For me, I am using a size 6 for this project, which is the second to the last smallest size that I have. And I think that is it, y'all. So let's go ahead and get into the project. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the head of our possum. And we are gonna start with, let me put that yarn away. We're gonna start with this pink yarn because this is gonna be the very tip of the nose for our possum. And so what we're gonna do, how we're gonna start this is a magic circle. And in that magic circle, we are doing 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and on the 4th one we are actually going to change our color because we only want the tip of our nose to be pink. We don't want the whole nose, the whole like face to be pink. So I'm gonna cut the excess there, and I'm gonna take the tail that I had for my magic circle and go ahead and pull that. So place my stitch marker also, and then for row number 2 we are actually going to do increases, and I'm just going to get all my tails together here. Go ahead and put my stitch marker on the other side. So in each one of these stitches we are doing 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. And this looks kind of crazy a little bit because I'm actually crocheting over my tails. And if you follow my channel, you know I do this pretty regularly because at the end, when I'm done with my project, I have very, very minimal tails to weave in. So this is just a method that I've developed over the course of my crochet journey to make my life easier in the end. If that's not your vibe, if that's not your preference, then you don't have to do that. You don't have to crochet over your tails. You definitely can weave them in at the end, but this is my preference. And this is how I show you guys so that you're not stressed out trying to weave in everything at the end. Okay, so I have done row number 2. Row number 3 is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. What I want to do now though is I want to push my work kind of inside out so that it's easier to see what I'm doing here. All right, so row number 3, I'm sorry, is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. My apologies. 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you should have 8 single crochets at the end of this round. So go ahead and do that and meet me back here and I'll show you what we're doing next. Row number 4 is going to be the 1 single crochet and an increase. So 1 single crochet and then increase in the next stitch, meaning that we're putting 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So we're going to follow that pattern of 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets in that next stitch all the way around. Follow that pattern all the way around. All right, rows 5 through 6 is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, and at that point you should have 12 single crochets. So if you just want to double check that you're following the pattern correctly, you should have 12 single crochets. So go ahead and do that and I will meet you back here. Row number 7 is going to be 2 single crochets and then an increase. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then an increase. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then an increase. And you're going to do that all the way around. Row number 8 is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. And you're going to do that all the way around. At the end of this row, you should have 16 single crochets. So go ahead and do that and meet me back here. All right, row number 9 is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. So 1, 2, 3 single crochets, and then an increase. 1, 2, 3 single crochets, and then an increase. You're going to do this all the way around, and when we get to the end of this row, you are going to switch to your gray color. So go ahead and do that and meet me back for row number 10. Okay, so I have finished row number 9. I've changed my color to my gray. In row number 10, we are doing 4 single crochets and an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase in that next stitch. So same sort of concept as what we've been doing, this time just 4 single crochets before we do that increase. And again, you can see that I'm crocheting over my tails, and when I'm done, I literally can just cut it. It makes it so much easier on the back end. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm going to do this all the way around, and then I will meet you back here to start row number 11. Row number 11 is going to be 5 single crochets and then an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an increase. We're doing that all the way around. Rows 12 through 13, 12 through 13 is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you should have 28 stitches if you're following along and you're doing the check. So rows 12 through 13, 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you should have 28. So go ahead and do that and meet me back here. All right, so I got an eye stuck to my piece. I have done rows 12 through 13, and this is what I'm looking like so far. And what I want to do is go ahead, before we start doing our decreases, which will start in row number 14, I want to go ahead and insert my plastic safety eyes. I am using a size 6 for this project. So I'm going to take my first eye, and I'm going to, if I can grab it, I'm going to look between rows 6 and 7. So if I'm looking at the magic circle here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between rows 6 and 7, I'm going to insert the first eye, grab my second one, and I'm going to count over. So the way I do my eyes, the stitch that I just put my eye in is stitch number 1. I'm going to count over to stitch number 8 and put the other eye. Let me show you what I mean. So that's 1, where my eye is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My other one is going to go here. So in stitches 1 and 8 is the way I generally write my patterns. That's what we're looking like. So let me go ahead and pop the backs in, and I will show you what to do for row number 14. All right, so as I mentioned, row number 14 is going to be the start of our decreases. So we're going to do 5 single crochets and a decrease. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we are decreasing. And you're going to do that all the way around. All right, row number 15 is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. So same concept as before. That's 2, 3, 4, and then a decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a decrease, and we're doing that all the way around. Row 16 is going to be 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease all the way around. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is actually start stuffing this guy, and I'm not excited about it just because, again, if you've watched my previous videos, you know I hate stuffing my work before I'm completely done crocheting, just because it's really awkward to hold after you've stuffed. But for this thing, because it's so narrow, like at the nose part, stuffing the inside is going to be a little bit of a task if this hole get any smaller. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and stuff this guy. I'm going to use my crochet hook or a pencil or something to get the polyfill all the way down to the tip of the nose, because we do want it to be stuffed just a little bit, not too bad or not too much stuffing down there, but we do want it to kind of be up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I will meet you back here once I feel this is stuffed to my liking. Alright, I went ahead and stuffed. I think that's good for me. And I'm going to do row number 17, which is 2 single crochets and then a decrease. So 1, 2, and then a decrease. 1, 2, and then a decrease. And we're doing that all the way around. Alright, so that is actually our last row. So what I can do is grab my scissors here. They have a fairly long tail for sewing. I can fasten this guy off, and for me, I actually didn't stuff enough in the head part of my possum, so I need to go back in here and put some more polyfill. If that happened to you, go ahead and do the same, so that like the back of your head is stuffed as well, especially after adding that last row, that row number 17. So I'm gonna do this, and then what I'm actually gonna do is close this hole. If you want to hang on with me, if you've never closed the hole, if you just kind of want to see how I do it, then let's go for it. So I'm gonna take my yarn needle, thread my yarn through my yarn needle, and I actually did this on my last video too, where we made the mama bear affirmation crochet animal. But what I actually do is just go in one stitch, come out the other, in one stitch, out the other, in one stitch and out the other, all the way around to the beginning of that row. You just kind of eyeball it. We did take our stitch marker out, so you just eyeball it. It's really not an exact science here. It doesn't have to be, because what we're going to do is, let me just get, I think this was the beginning of mine. We're just going to pull, and it's going to close the hole. See that? It just closes the hole for us. And what I like to do is just go again around. In my opinion, it just makes it look a little bit neater. It's totally not necessary, but I like the look when I do 2 passes. All right, and that is what our head is looking like. I just need to knot this guy and hide it in my work, and we are done with the head, and we can move on to the body. And that's what we're looking like. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the body. Okay, so for the body, we are going to start with our gray yarn, and we are starting with a magic circle. Inside of our magic circle, we are doing 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Go ahead and close that hole. Place our stitch marker. Next, we are doing an increase. So after this round, you should have 12 single crochets. And again, I am crocheting over that tail like I do all the time. Just pulling that tail there to make sure my magic circle is nice and tight on the inside. And I'm doing 2 single crochets in each stitch, which is called an increase. So go ahead and do this all the way around, and I will meet you back here for row number 3. Row number 3 is going to be 1 single crochet and then an increase. So 1 single crochet, and then an increase. Same thing we did with the head. 1 single crochet and then an increase, and we're doing that all the way around to our stitch marker. Row number 4 is 2 single crochets and then an increase. 1, 2, and then an increase. 1, 2, and then an increase all the way around. Row number 5 is going to be 3 single crochets and then an increase. Same sort of deal here. 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. So go ahead and do that all the way around. All right, row 6, 7, and 8 is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. And at the end of each of these rounds, you should have 30 single crochets. So go ahead and do your row 6, row 7, row 8, and then meet me back here for row number 9. All right, so I have done my rows 6 through 8. This is what I'm looking like. Row number 9 is going to be our first round of decreases, which is 3 single crochets and then a decrease. This is nothing new to us. We did something similar in the head. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. Nothing new here. So go ahead and do this all the way around, and I'll meet you back here. Row number 10 is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you should have 24 stitches at the end of this round if you just want to do a double check. So go ahead and finish this, and I'll meet you back here. Row number 11 is going to be 2 single crochets and then a decrease. 1, 2, and then a decrease. Go ahead and do that all the way around. Row number 12, 1 single crochet in each stitch, and we should be at 18 stitches after this row. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here. Row 13 is going to be 1 single crochet and then a decrease. 1 single crochet and then a decrease. 1 single crochet and then a decrease all the way around. All right, we're almost there, y'all. Row 14 is going to be 1 single crochet in each, and we should have 12 stitches at the end of this round. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet you back here. All right, so as I mentioned before, I really don't like stuffing my work and then keep crocheting. So this hole is getting very, very tight here. So if you want to go ahead and stuff right now, go ahead and do so. If you're like me and you want to just be done once you stuff, I'm going to go ahead and do row number 15. So feel free to pause the video if you prefer to stuff now. If not, I'm going to go ahead and do row number 15 and then stuff after. And row number 15 is just a round of decreases. So we are just doing a decrease all the way around. Now, my stitch marker was kind of in the way on that one, so let me just show you again. So just doing decreases literally all the way around. So go ahead and do that. I'm gonna do that, finish my row number 15. I will stuff and then meet you back here to show you what it looks like. All right, so this is what I'm looking like, all stuffed. And I think I'm gonna leave this hole open. You can feel free to close it if you want, but I think I'm gonna leave it open. And the reason behind that is because I'm gonna use the stitches around that hole to sew it to my head when the time comes. So I would recommend doing the same thing, but again, this is your project and you can do however you see fit. But we are done with the body and the head. That's what we're gonna look like. And yeah, let's put those aside. And let's do the arms. All right, so let's go ahead and do the arms. We're gonna start with a magic circle. And in the magic circle, we are doing 4 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we are going to grab my stitch marker here. We're going to do a row of increases for row number 2. So we should end up with 8 single crochets. So just 2 in each stitch here, all the way around. And rows 3 through 6 is just 1 single crochet in each stitch. And again, you should have 8 single crochets in each one of these stitches, and each one of these rows, excuse me. So at the end of each row, you should have 8 single crochets, just if you want to be sure and check. So go ahead and do your rows 3 through 6, and I will do mine, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, so I have finished my rows 3 through 6, and this is what I'm looking like. So what we want to do now is pinch our sides together, and we want to pick up a stitch in our front, pick up a stitch in our back, and then do a single crochet. So pick up a stitch in the front, pick up a stitch in the back, and do a single crochet. And I can fit about 3 into my arm. Then I'm going to cut, leave a long tail for sewing, fasten off, and go ahead and remove my stitch marker. So this is your first arm. You will need 2 of these guys. So go ahead and do your second one and meet me back here. Alright, so I've gone ahead and done both of my arms, and this is what they're looking like. And I think the only thing we have left to do here, let's see, is our ears. And I think we're pretty much done. So let's go ahead and do our ears. Alright, so for the ears, it is really simple. What we're going to do is a magic circle. Let's get my magic circle. And inside of our magic circle, we are doing 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Row number 2 is going to be a row of increases, which means you're going to end up with 8 single crochets. So 2 single crochets in each stitch, because that is what an increase is. And I think I'll just stay on with you throughout our single crochets, because it's only 4 stitches. So that is 6 single crochets, 7 and 8. And I'm actually going to cut this little tail here because I did crochet over it and I don't need it anymore. Alright, so the final round is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, and we should have 8 stitches at this point. So just going around 8 single crochets, and again, I'll stay on with you because this one is really tiny. It's not going to take us very long. If you can crochet along with me, that'd be great. If not, go ahead and pause the video. It's fine. Pause the video and then come back to it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just flip my ear inside out so it looks like that. Pinch it just like we did with the arms. And I'm going to pick up a stitch in the front, pick up a stitch in the back, and then do a single crochet. Pick up a stitch in the front and the back, single crochet, front and back, single crochet. I did 3 total, and we're done. Literally, we're done. Fasten off, cut a long tail for sewing, and that's what you should look like. Now you do need 2 of these guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my second one. I do believe we have done all of our parts, so we literally just need to start assembling. Okay, so let's take inventory of what we have. We have 2 ears, we have 2 arms, we have a body, and we should have a head. Alright, so let's start assembling. I'm going to grab my quilting needles here, and I am going to use these big ones today. So I'm going to find my head, the top of my head, and put my needles in such that it holds my guy in place. My needles, I'm actually going to do it this way. Oh, I just poked myself. Just like that. And be careful. That almost got me. Alright, actually, you know what? That is gonna get me. Let me move that. Let me move this one too, because I literally always poke myself. Okay, that's a little bit more safe. Okay, so then what we're gonna do is take our arms, put our arms on here, and if you're following along, I placed mine about 3 rows down. So 1, 2, 3. You see that? About 3 rows down. That's good for me. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So about 3 rows, 1, 2, about there. Just make sure it's even on both sides. I think I like that. And we just need to put the ears on. And what I'm gonna do is just place my needle in the center. My quilting pin in the center, if I can get it there. There we go. And I am going to see where I'm gonna place them. I'm doing it about, like, if you're looking at the gray, 1, 2, 3, between like the 4th and the 5th gray row. So I'm not counting the actual rows that we crocheted. I'm looking at the gray row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So between the 4th and the 5th, and trying to align it with the eye. So the middle of the ear to, like, aligning the eye in the center of the ear. That's actually was off a little bit, like that. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing with the other one. So just doing this, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and center of the eye, like that. And actually, I think I want to go a little bit higher than the center of the eye. There we go. Let's see, do we want to go forward a little bit? You know what, guys? I think I'm gonna go forward a little bit. That looks a little bit better to me. So let's go 1, 2, 3. Let's go between rows 3 and 4. I think I like that a little bit better. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so this is what I'm looking like. And remember, this guy's going to be holding a message. So I'm going to go ahead and sew all these pieces together, and I'll meet you back here so we can do the message together. Okay, I figured I would come back and show you. And I don't know if you guys saw my last video, but last video I showed you guys how to make your amigurumi affirmation amigurumi animal stand up. And I did it kind of late in the game. I did it after I attached the head, and I used a quilting needle, which I know not everyone has. So I'm gonna try to show you how to do it with a regular yarn needle this time. And you'll notice that I haven't attached my head yet. And so what we're gonna do is make the bottom of our body flat so that it stands up, because right now it doesn't. Right now it's so rounded with those increases that it just topples over. So what we're gonna do is go into the top of our body, doesn't matter, like where, center maybe, and you're gonna go 1 stitch to the right of our magic circle, just like that. Can you see that? 1 stitch to the right of your magic circle. Pull to where there's a bit of a tail. This is my tail right there, a bit of a tail. And you're gonna go on the other side of your magic circle. So that's my magic circle. I'm gonna go on the other side and then pull up through the center again, just like that. And so it should be just a little line there, right? So what we wanna do is, let's see if we can pull both these at the same time. Yeah, just pull both of them at the same time. And you'll see that little indent. You see that? How it indents? So in order to get that to stay, what we're gonna do is tie this pretty darn tight. And it should create that permanent indent such that your guy should now stand up. So I'm gonna tie this a couple of times, actually, making sure I have the right tails, because I do still have that tail from the body that I need to attach the head. I'm just gonna tie this a couple of times, and then I don't need it anymore. I can actually just cut it. And that way our animal stands up. It doesn't topple over anymore. So that's just a little bit of a hack. All right, so I'm gonna attach my head, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I've attached my head. This is what we are looking like, and that little indentation we made at the bottom is definitely a lifesaver. This thing is kind of top heavy, so you may have to adjust the circle, like kind of push him down a little bit if you're choosing to do the method that I showed you to stand him up. All right, so the only thing we need to do now is to attach the message. And if you've seen my other 3 videos for the series this month, the You Got This series, we've done the same thing. And what I'm gonna do is just take a Post-it note, cut off the sticky part because the sticky part just gets in the way. And I'm just gonna pare this down until I get to a size that I think is good. It's been about like a 1.25 to a 1.5 in terms of dimensions, but we'll see what we're looking like. I think I can get away with the same dimensions, but we'll see. I think that's about good because last time I actually moved my arms a little bit too far over, so I want to compensate for that. So let's see what size this is. Let me get my measuring tape. And this is about like a 1.5. I can go with a 1.5 by 1.5 by 1.25. I can live with that. So 1.5 by 1.25. So what I'm gonna do is pull out my laptop. I'm gonna create a table with these dimensions, print out my message, and meet you back here to show you how to attach it. All right, so this is the message I went with. Your calm presence is a gift they'll remember forever. And just like I did with all of the rest of the messages in the series, I did create the table using a black border, so it gives me kind of an outline or a guide to cut, because I don't like the look of the black line necessarily in the finished product, but it does give me a guide as to where to cut so that my line is as straight as possible when I cut. So after I cut that, what I'm gonna do is grab my needle and thread, because a needle and thread is going to help this look a little bit more neat. I have not tried this with my yarn needle. I imagine it is going to be very, very bulky. So this is the best bet. This is the best option that I would suggest. This is what I use. But feel free to try the other method too. Oh, that was loud, sorry. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our message. We're going to take our possum and position this, and we're going to hold it with our hand as we attach. And usually I leave a lot of room on either side, and this time I actually forgot to do that. And so what we are gonna do is try to get, let's see, if we try to get our arm right there, will that work? No, we're gonna get them on the end. Let's see, we'll do it right there. Usually I print my message so that there's a lot of space on either side, like a center align. But this time around I actually forgot to do that, but that's okay. We're still gonna make this look beautiful. So I'm just going into the hand, going back through the hand, and then going back through the hole that we made, and then coming out of the same place that we entered. And this is a little bit of a task, but just kind of feel your way around until you get there. There we go, as close as possible. Just like that. And then just pull everything. Just like that. And we want to pull so that you don't see the thread holding the arm to the message. And then what I like to do is just to go ahead and tie this a couple of times. Tie it pretty tight. Cut. I did put a fairly decent amount of thread on my needle because I'm just going to use that same thread and come on over. I cut, and then I use the same thread that's left on my needle for the other arm. And I'm going to position this over here and then try to find a good place. I think right there is fine. Leaving a little bit at the bottom. Again, going into my arm, going back through my arm, just like that. And then I'm going back through the hole that we made in our paper. Back through the body and coming up in the same place that we went in. Just like that. Then pull everything together just like we did in the other side. Just like that. Just like that. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and knot this and clean this guy up, and then I will meet you back here to show you what the final project looked like. All right, and this is what we are looking like. Oh my gosh, so adorable, so adorable. That's what our guy is looking like. So what can you do with this pattern to make it your own? You definitely can change the color. I don't know that you would want to though. Like the possum is pretty close true to color in terms of like the real thing. I don't know how you would change the color, but you definitely can utilize your creative freedoms to do so. What I would recommend, this guy, I did make the font and the message a lot bigger than I usually do, and I didn't center align it. The reason that's important is because I had to attach the arms at the top instead of the side, and you can see that the message kind of pokes out a little bit. If you like that look, that's great. If not, what I would recommend is center aligning your text, make it a little bit smaller, and it gives you some space on the side so you can attach your arms to the side. And actually, let me give you an example. This is our project from last week, and you see how like there's space on each side, how I center align the text, and the bear looks like it's hugging the center of the message. That's what I'm referring to. But this guy did come out really cute. I'm just giving you a different, different alternative. Another thing that I would recommend, and I mentioned this before, is if you are selling these like professionally, what I would actually recommend, this is just a stand I have in my office. What I would recommend is getting one of these things, and let me see if I can maneuver it in here. It's kind of tight. I would recommend this stand because it helps to, oh my gosh, why can't I get this thing in? It helps to just make your guy stand up. There we go. It helps your guy to stand up without having to do that hole at the bottom, and it just, oh man, just come off. And it just looks a little bit more professional, right? So that's an alteration also. But other than that, I think this thing came out really cute. I hope you had a fun time with it, just like I had a fun time teaching you how to do it. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell icon so you know when I drop new content, which is every single Monday. I'm here with you every single Monday. There's a lot going on in the world. Make sure you stay safe, stay up on the information that's out there so you can keep your family safe as well. And as always, crochet some cool stuff and meet me back here next week, guys. Bye.